On sites like this, we managed to drag Stuart away from his day job with English Heritage, and on a site like this, one of the things that we were discussing earlier was that we needed to look at the older maps to tell the story of the early history of Dunwich. And Stuart's been working with Time Team for 18 years, man and boy.
You could make a historic map out of me, couldn't you?
You could make a historic map out of Stuart. And there's always that moment when you feel Stuart knows something interesting that we don't, because he's observed something or seen something. But the maps that tell the story of this place are really quite interesting. And do you want to just talk about how you go about using maps to do the job that you do with archaeology?
It's like
briefly.
Do I do brief? I don't know if I do briefly. Basically, it's looking at patterns on maps and seeing if any of those patterns are traceable through different periods of maps, from one century to another century through to the modern day. So effectively it's a kind of pattern recognition to start with, and what you get used to looking at is what shapes things have, what shape a monastery would have, what shape a Roman fort would have, what shape a planned medieval village would have. So you're looking at shapes and comparing them with what you know elsewhere.
And the key thing about where we are at the moment, which is round the back of the car park, is we're hoping to find some structures and a hint of where the medieval hospital was. And what shapes, what does your eye look for in context of that?
Well, there's an illustration here on this map is dated 1800, but it's actually a much earlier map judging by the style of cartography. So I would say we're talking a map made in the mid 18th century at the moment, say 1750ish, which is quite a good date to have a map. We've got an earlier one, 1567 I think. It's got two maps.
Argus.
Yeah, that's right. We've got two maps which show this street pattern, what's left of medieval Dunwich. And one of the features that's on both the 1567 map and this map, and continues through all the other mapping right through to the present day and still there, is this curious road shape here. And I mean, if I
while you're looking in your wee file,
there we go.
The shape Stuart's referring to is, there's this little promontory here, and then there's a road or a trackway running along here with a little building by it, and that's just behind us in that area here.
That's it. Now if you look at all these other maps, you'll soon start to see that same pattern, that curving road pattern with this triangle where Greyfriars is here, is visible on that. If you turn it the other way up.
I always put maps the wrong way up.
Yeah, I've noticed. This triangle shape here, that triangle shape there, road coming down, crossroads, road coming up from it, leads to this corner, this road here. On this map, this is actually labelled as being the Maison d'Eur, the hospital, and so it is on that map there. So there's a clue for a start off. And that road pattern, if you come through to the 19th century, this is late 1884, see exactly that same road pattern, curving the road, which is there. And
so if people are at home, Stuart, and they live in a village or there's a set of road patterns, it might be that the road patterns that they can see, if they go back in the earlier maps, there might be patterns which are consistently appearing back in time.
Looking for the ones that really keep appearing, both forward and backwards, as it were. They're the ones that you focus in on. And then, because you're trying to explain what that pattern is and what it's part of. And here, this is the modern map, going right through to the modern day. That same road junction is the road we come down. This is the entrance to the car park, that's the cafe, toilet block there. That same curve in the road as is on there and all the other maps, and that's where the Maison d'Eur was indicated.
So this is a curve that began on a map as far back as
1567 it first appeared.
1567, it's continuous through those maps, you can see it. And why is that a useful thing for us with regard to what we're looking for at the moment?
What it gives us is, in essence, the location of the medieval hospital, because it should be located outside the town, but very close to where there's a landing, so that the poor can actually get arms and the sort of treatment and poverty.
And this may be the first hospital that detects something like leprosy, or...
That's right, first point of contact in. So that road should lead to a landing of some kind, and just before you get up into the town. And that's exactly what we'd expect. Buildings very close to the road. The chapel should almost be next to the road, where you could literally extend a hand inwards and outwards. So,
and what's I know, you know, I've talked with Mick about the most important map for most people's area, things like a tithe map, things like the 1820s OS map?
No,
which are the critical maps if you live in an area and you want to find, if you want to do what Mick calls retrospective map analysis, which are the maps that you would suggest people go for?
Well, first of all, you start off with always the oldest, and you can never plan what that's going to be, but the standard maps that tend to be available everywhere, tithe map, that's a given. They vary in date from in fact some places from the late 18th century right through to the mid 19th century, but the problem with tithe maps is they often, when they were drawing the information on them, they often used older maps, so sometimes you can be a bit unclear of dates, but whatever is the tithe map,
so tithe map,
you need the tithe map and the award that goes with it, which is basically a list of who owns what, so you have to have those two together. The second one is enclosure maps. This relates to a period when land was being enclosed into fields and field parcels, so there's usually enclosure maps as well, and you can normally get both the tithe maps and enclosure maps at the local records office, and a lot of them now are available online, in fact, which is really helpful.